We're just a few minutes late, but not by Fearless Flight time. Just by we had an unruly passenger we had to escort off the airplane here. So anyway, hey, this is Captain Ron here with Dieter and oh God, what are your names again? Eric and Diane, with the whole crew here, and for another thrilling episode of Fearless Flight Live. For anybody who does get thrilled, even when you're not supposed to, from flying on airplanes, and anybody who knows people who get thrilled, but just wants to help them, or people who just like talking about airplanes and flying. So welcome tonight. We like to encourage you to join our Fearless Flight Live group. We're up to 768 members in the Birds of a Feather group. So keep joining, keep talking, and keep staying active in there. We really appreciate the participation. Tonight, we're going to talk about a little bit about the future of Fearless Flight, some changes coming up. I got a poll question related to that. And the Fearless Flight kit got a new platform that I'll be talking about, and got a case study that we'll talk about. I want to remind you about the 101 classes, both online and in person. And we had one question come in, which we're going to combine the industry update and the questions from the audience there. Had another surprise, but I was the only one that got surprised here. We're going to have a call-in thing, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. So the poll question, let me see if I can play this, and I forget, share the screen first. We'll see how this comes off. It's taking forever.
While Ron is looking for the poll question, if you have your own questions, please put them into the comments in either the Facebook or the YouTube live stream, or if you watch that video, so that we can act with our show, because that's where we're live. Okay. We have a product order. Okay,
cool. We got the poll question, right? Please tell me yes. Okay,
yes,
cool.
You do.
All right. And so we're thinking about this. It's just kind of a little thing. So if you're watching us live, we appreciate if you respond here. If you're watching the replay, just as important or more important, because a lot of you watch the replay. We're thinking about switching from a FLF Live to a podcast format. You wouldn't notice much difference, but we will on the production end, because we'll be able to wrap the show up together, put a little bit of fancy wrappings around it, and put it out over the main podcast distribution systems out there, like iTunes, Apple Podcast. So the four choices that I threw out there tonight, where if we did go to this, again, the same kind of content format and timing and all that, but we're looking for time slots. So would you prefer, considering the Tuesday evening time, another night during the week, Saturday mornings? And I just picked 10 o'clock in the Pacific time zone, which makes it 1 o'clock in the East on either Saturday or Sunday morning. So if you would just give us a idea of what you would like to do with that. And so we would appreciate that. Let me go. Let me pause this for just a minute. Stop the share. Okay, come back to this. So you all know that if you have the Fearless Flight Harmonizer, it's always been cumbersome because not so much for Android users, but Apple users out there. Apple, and I won't editorialize about what I think about this part of Apple, but they make it more difficult to download a file directly from the internet. And for us, that's the primary way we want to get information to you out there. So we've like I said, if you have the Fearless Flight Kit, you are familiar with it, and you know that you get it on here. And if you have streaming, it's no big deal. If you're streaming, you can just click on the harmonizer, which many of you like, and use quite often and quite reliably. But if you don't have streaming available, now you've got to download it onto your device so that you, because you won't be able to stream it on the airplane. You can play it if it's on if it resides on your device, if the file's on your device, but you can't stream it because the airlines, even although that you can buy their internet or you can use their free Wi-Fi for texting, you still can't stream a file through your phone in there. So you need to be able to do that. Well, we found another way of getting that on here, and I'm gonna go back and share my screen here to show you what it would look like. You know, and if there's nothing you're going to be able to or have to remember about this, I'm just going to show you what it looks like and describe the process. So,
so far, I'm just thanks Kimberly and thanks Tracy and Michelle. We got A, that will be Tuesday. I'll show up whenever you are on. I love that one.
Very flexible.
Yeah, very flexible. Jim, A, Gilbert, I hope, Gilbert, is that an A, your answer? It's just easier. Yeah, and Tracy, yeah, I'll show up no matter when you have it. I love it, Tracy.
okay, as soon as I find my keynote.
So we're holding Tuesdays for now, overwhelmingly. Is that what the voting is so far?
So far.
Sounds like.
And Shally, we hope that if Ron finds the screen that he really wants to share, that this problem with the iPhone is going to go away for good, because I don't want to steal Ron's thunder here, but we're seeing a screen, Ron, where you have all your windows. Like,
yeah, I know, and I can't. As soon as I share that, then I can't find the PowerPoint again. Oh God, I hate this.
So please, if you're just joining the poll question, Sue Hopkins. Hi, Sue. Sue says A. So far we have A, or whenever you go.
How can you lose your presentation? Oh my gosh.
I think a lot of people may just have the Tuesday evening slot sort of programmed into their calendars that they have written maybe at their desks, or certainly in their kind of a mental calendar. So
I bet you're right.
Okay. Now tell me
here
that
we
you see
go.
it now. All right,
Yeah.
cool. Okay.
all right.
So here's what you're going to look at. Yeah, we have an app, and it happens to be called GuruCan. You don't have to remember that right now, but it just happens to be. I wanted to show you what it looks like. So it's not like we have our own native app, but it's the next best thing until we get the resources and the time and the energy to create our own app. So this first screen is what you'll see on your phone, and then all you have to do is open that, and then when you open it, it'll show. Let me go back one. It'll show you this screen to the right there. So you'll see the FearlessFlight kit displayed. So that, and it says lessons because it's organized as a course in the new on the new platform. So you just click on the FearlessFlight kit or touch it with your finger. Now it's going to open up this screen with two presentations down here, and the one that says 7 lessons your FearlessFlight kit. When you click on that will allow you to stream it like you've always streamed it. So you can do that anywhere where you've got active Wi-Fi available. But the next screen says 5 lessons. So there are 5 downloadable videos and audios that you can do. And notice it says pre-boarding. So you want to do that just like you would if you're riding on an airline like Southwest or American or Delta, and you need to download their apps. If you want to use their apps in the air, you can't get them in the air. You have to download them to your device before you leave the Wi-Fi in the terminal or at home or wherever you download it from. So this will be the same. So we'll come out with a little pre-flight checklist and all that to make sure that you do that. So now once you do that, now you can see over here, now your FearlessFlight kit, it opens up. And as I said, these are the streaming ones, but then you'll go over here and it actually shows you on the next screen, it shows you how to download. So some of you are familiar with that in our old FearlessFlight hub. You could do this. you could go over here and find these instructions. Now they're right on your iPhone, and hopefully in a way that seems straightforward. But I would still do it ahead of time, and we're gonna make some training videos to go along with this. But in any case, you've got the instructions here. So now you have the Fearless Flight Kit available through streaming in a ready-to-use app, and you download them, and now you'll have them readily available in flight there. And so this is what it looks like. The downloads instructions up here, you can see, you can click on that at the top, and then down here it shows that the harmonizer video and the takeoff video with the harmonizer track are completed. So those have been downloaded. I wanted to show you just kind of what it looks like there. And so now you can use them on the airplane as you always could. The feature that I didn't get working tonight that's going to be in our future is a call-in, and we needed to get that for the podcast. I got everything working except we couldn't hear Eric when he called to me. So I just want to let you know that that's in the works along with the podcast. And then we wanted to talk a little bit about a case study, just kind of give you an idea what happens for people when they now I lost my notes. Come on. So I've stopped the share, right? We're seeing all of our beautiful faces. Okay. Okay. All right. So you guys can still see the gallery, correct?
Yeah, just the four of us.
Okay, cool. So I wanted to talk about that, so this is an actual person that I've had as a 15-minute coaching call, and if you've done that, you would be familiar with that. If you haven't, this is what you're going to see when you make the appointment. It's going to take you to a little bit of an intake interview, and the first question is, I fly regularly, yes or no? And then it says, do you have plans to fly in the next 90 days? And this person said yes. And then when I'm on the call with them, I ask them where and what the details are about that. And then they give me a little bit of history. When was it that they first noticed their fear of flying? And this person, or asked where and when are they going to fly? And this person had a trip to Hawaii coming up in just 7 days, which is very typical. Most of my callers, I'd say half the coaching sessions, at least the 15-minute ones, are with people who are flying within a week, and oftentimes like 2 to 3 days. And so the one thing is it makes it we have to kind of hit the nail on the head. The good part about that is they're highly motivated because they don't have any other choice other than to not fly. And for many of them, that's not an option, as it was not for this person. So this person said that they flew without issues until they had a bad experience in a major event. That's very typical as well. And this person noticed that they had a panic attack, and it took 20 minutes before they were permitted to deplane. So an unusual thing. She didn't have any recollection of having any issues with flying. It was never a fun thing for her. But on this particular day, she had flown before. On this particular day, they were waiting to deplane, and many of you know how everybody jumps up and into the aisles and everything. And the story that started playing over and over in her mind was, oh my gosh, I've got to get off of this airplane. And it drove her to near panic. And she had the presence of mind. She was sitting toward the rear of the airplane anyway. And she just kind of made a mad dash for the back because that was the only place that she could go. And she had a really, really cool flight attendant, probably in the category of Diane, who noticed that something was wrong, didn't make a big deal out of it, but just looked at her, reached over and opened the rear door. And while some people might be alarmed that the door was open, she wasn't. And she didn't have any desire to jump out or anything. It just represented kind of opening up that sealed container there, and it provided her with some relief. And so she took that very innovatively and creatively for the next time that she flew, and she introduced herself to the flight attendant, and she talked to the flight attendant about her past experiences and did that. But it just kept getting worse and worse and worse, such that the family doesn't drive or doesn't fly anymore. They take vacations only when they're within driving distance, and that limits their choices. And as you've heard, most of our people who have families and loved ones that they want to fly with, it makes them feel guilty about it. and that's the nature of the beast, it seems like. And so what she was looking for is you know, not particularly being afraid of being in the air or turbulence necessarily or crashes, just the thought of what it's like when they close the door and you're locked up with no escape. I'd say half of you out there have that. And she talks further that she used to be able to sleep in a plane and felt very comfortable in that, and she wants that peace back. So she had a short time to go, and we'll report back, because she's actually in Hawaii right now. So we'll see how it went, and we'll follow up with that. So the bottom line is she was successful. I want to just share some of the things that came up though. And I've often expressed the fact that what I see in a lot of people are evidence of trauma. And I won't necessarily call it post-traumatic stress disorder, but certainly evidence of traumatic stress. And so a lot of us have things happen. I had an experience in my own life when I was very young, where I was traumatized, but was not aware of what the details, wasn't even aware of until I was in my early 40s that it had even happened to me. But this particular person pieced this together. She went back. I said, well, you know, was there anything significant that happened to you in your life? And she said, well, you know, other than the fact that I went into a hospital, she'd been having some kinds of arrhythmias with her heart. And so she went in, and they were going to insert a catheter. And it wasn't a major procedure, but they did do it in a sterile surgical room. And in order to do that, the first thing they did was they gave her a mild sedative. And I think it was Xanax. It was either Xanax or Ativan. And they put a little tent over her so that, you know, literally she couldn't see what they were doing, but she could feel what they were doing, because it wasn't that, you know, just a local where they were going to insert the catheter. And all of a sudden she started to not feel good and feel anxious. And there was some fumbling in the room, and she could tell that she had a sense that there was something that wasn't right. And ultimately the procedure failed, and she got up and she left. But from that point on, she had all the symptoms of having been traumatized. And one of the things she did, she was able to get her records. And what she found out was that she went into, help me, Diane, anaphylactic shock.
Anaphylactic, yeah.
Anaphylactic
So
shock.
had probably an allergic reaction to a medication or.
Yeah, right. To the sedative they give her. Okay. And everybody, and that's why the concern and all that. And she was very disappointed, I might say, to the point of being pissed about not ever knowing that. And the thing, I'm not going to criticize the medical staff, because that's way out of my ballpark. But the one thing that's critical, we now know from Vietnam vets, which is where the whole PTSD thing really got a foothold into finding new solutions for sufferers, is that it really helps to debrief whatever happens as quickly as possible related to the incident that you have. And let me stop this presentation here. And the reason that's so critical is because you can address it before it ever gets momentum by just parking in your mind. And when you look at anticipatory anxiety and the way that we mull over what happens to us, particularly if you don't know what happened, that's the basis for trauma. And so one of the things I suggested to her, would have been nice if at some way appropriately they could have, when she left there, say, you know, they don't have to reveal all the gory details, but on some level share with her that, you know, we had a problem, we weren't able to do what we had intended to do, and you went into shock there momentarily, and we just wanted to let you know that you were never in any serious danger. That's really important. And what happened to you? Okay. And so there's a huge parallel with that, with those of you who are already afraid to fly, or you're on an airplane and you weren't afraid to fly and you have turbulence or something and you get triggered. The same kind of thing. You want to maybe you talk to a flight attendant like Diane if you're on board and you didn't have a problem before, or at the very least, you try to catch the pilots on the way out. And I recommend this debriefing for anybody, even those of you who've been working on your fear of flying. I recommend it for you if you get on board, you had a turbulent flight and you got triggered, that you look for an opportunity to talk to one of the pilots before you leave. Usually there's one up by the door. And you say, hey, you know that turbulence we hit back there, or that weather, or that lightning, or whatever it was that triggered you, were we in any danger? And you have them kind of put that to rest right there on the spot. And so there's two responsibilities I like to think for people who are afraid to fly. One is to board early and introduce yourself to the flight attendant that greets you, and introduce yourself to the pilots and alert them to the fact that you do have issues with flying. And the other is, if you have something that happens that needs to be debriefed, take responsibility for debriefing that when you leave after the airplane there, because it really can change your whole life in terms of not carrying all that forward there. I don't know why, if you, Eric, you and Diane, if you got anything to add to that.
Only what you have said before, all of that, and when we have big classes, small classes, we'll get a lot of people together, and the average is 20 years that people will not have got on an airplane because of something like that. So that's a long time to let it sit and fester, and it takes a little bit of work to dig it back out. So where Ron says getting after it early, talking to the flight crews, doing something sooner rather than later is very helpful for the person going flying.
All right,
Yeah, but I'm going to wait till flight attendant corner.
Okay.
I just want to put that together when we hit flight attendant corner.
Well,
Okay.
I'll just give an update with the poll.
Okay.
So far, well, we have, as Jim said, the exit polls show that A is the clear winner. I just counted them up. It's 11 for A, 1 for C, and there's 2 people who would show up anytime, anywhere.
All right.
I appreciate that.
Sounds good.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, thanks a lot. And that certainly shows a trend, and we'll see if it would change. But I'm not surprised. This seems, for whatever reason, Dieter picked the date when we first did this, and you get used to it after a while. So that may be part of it too. But thanks everybody for indicating that. We want to talk about. We're going to give Diane a chance to weigh in on this. But there was an incident, and one of you wrote in. Thank you, by the way, for submitting this, about an incident where Southwest airplane had some turbulence, and there were 3 injuries in that. And Eric, why don't you go over the details, and then Diane can talk a little bit about the.
Well, it was, I'll just hit the outline, and Patsy, I attempted to answer her question in chat. So this was the incident we were talking about, but it was a Southwest flight leaving Chicago Midway Airport going to, I think, Denver, maybe farther, but at some point en route, they encountered turbulence, and I don't know if it was moderate or severe. One report was one report was the other, neither from the flight crew, so I don't know. But unexpectedly, because the pilots are so good now at warning people, and especially their flight attendants in the back, to put stuff away and sit down so they don't get hurt. Well, they quickly got into something that caused moderate plus turbulence, and 4 people were injured, and I don't think seriously, but all of them went to the hospital. One of them was a passenger, and 3 of them were flight attendants. And because it was unexpected, the flight attendants were up and walking around, and that's how they got hurt. And the passenger who got hurt was not seat belted in, which we always say to do when you're in the airplane, be seat belted in. And that's all I had, and Diane can expand on that.
Well, that's as Ron and Eric said, we always tell our passengers to keep their seatbelt buckled, even if the seatbelt sign is off, because of just that, the unexpected turbulence. And it could be actually not too bad, but if someone is up and in the aisle next to you, even if there's a little bit, that individual could fall into you. So we always want everybody to kind of stay buckled in. One thing that you talked about is the pilots are very, very good about letting us know when there is some bumpy air that they foresee. And we have always gotten plenty of notice. There's been one time in my a little over 2 years where I was up with the cart and the captain came on and said, "Flight attendants, sit down." I mean, bang, which is immediate, as we were talking about. Sit down, find an empty seat, sit down, buckle yourself in, sit on the floor, have passengers hold on to you no matter what happens. But that's very, very, very rare. So this really must have been a surprise to everybody for those flight attendants and that passenger. You know, we're up all the time. We're just pretty much up all the time unless we're told otherwise. So.
Yeah, and we don't want anybody getting hurt, least of all our followers out there. And so remember that. You'll fly on flights and you'll have people who travel regularly and get used to us warning them about potential for turbulence, putting the seatbelt sign on, and you'll see them get up and out of their seats. And you know, it's because it never happened any other time. And then one time that it does, when somebody gets hurt, it's senseless for that to happen. So
We had,
pay attention.
Ron, I don't know if you remember that, but we actually had a 201 class in Phoenix in, I think, 2018. And then we did the 301 right after and flew with some folks. And I remember sitting next to, I can't remember his name, maybe it'll come, but he shared a really cool insight that really stuck with me. And it's like, in his mind, putting on the seatbelt told him that he was not safe, right? Why would I have to put a seatbelt on if flying is so safe? And I will always remember that, because this is the power of our mind. And just, yeah, I can, obviously we worked through it, and that's the benefit of, you know, being able to fly with Ron on an elite coaching trip or in a class, hopefully, as we're starting those up again in the
Right.
So that's a good way to close, because I just wanted to kind of recap. We talked about this particular case study and the unique circumstances around her. Let's talk about fear of flying in general. What is it? It's faulty thinking, and you can't stop it. You cannot stop it. It pops into your head, it hijacks your amygdala, and you're stuck with it. Okay. So thinking gets you into it, and thinking is going to get you out of it, but it's got to be different thinking. You've got to change the way you think. And as Dieter just mentioned, you know, if you think that putting on your seatbelt is unsafe, you got to get that out of your head. Okay. And you do that by educating yourself about fear and the fear process and how the brain works and all that, and how aviation works. And the first relief is going to come to you from being able to disrupt that thinking or distract that thinking. And that's why we've had such success with the Fearless Flight Harmonizer, which we talked about, and we're going to make it even easier to use, download and use. And then the last thing is social connection. That's why we do the show, because the first thing that dominates people who have fear of flying is, I'm embarrassed, you know, and in addition to the fear. And as Eric pointed out, they wait years for that. The most common remark when we take people on an actual flight or we get feedback from them after coaching and things like that is, I wished I'd have done this a lot earlier in my life. Okay. So coaching is a real big part of that. 15 minutes. It sounds like a Geico commercial, but 15 minutes can change your whole life. Okay. So, and I got 4 coaching sessions tomorrow, and I love them. I love them. So if you haven't done it before, done a 15-minute coaching session, please consider that, because that's the first step to relief that many of you will have. And I want to do a shout out, a reminder again. Eric or Dieter will put in the notes there. We have coming up on July 10th is our next in-person class at Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport from 7 to 9 in the evening. And we will be streaming that with the live that part of the show. And then the following morning on July 11th, we're going to have an online webinar. The Clear for Takeoff 101 is the title of both of them. The only difference is when a webinar, obviously we can't do it from the airplane like we will the night before, and you won't have the benefit of that. But I recommend for anybody out there, it doesn't mean if you've ever watched this or you've done another class with us or something like that, I recommend everybody do the online class at the very least, because that's where you're going to get updated. It's always going to be new stuff. As long as Eric and I are involved, we never say the same thing twice. We try to make it true both times, but we always come up with something new. So we want to really emphasize what a valuable resource this is. I get really nice feedback from many people about how much the 15-minute coaching call helped them, and when we do the classes online. So we want to leave you with that tonight. The harmonizer for everybody out there. In the past, people lose it, they change phones and things like that, and they get out of the habit of using it. We want to make it easier for you to always have access to that, and this will be it. So in the next week or two, we're hoping to do that and offer you the opportunity to convert to the new format and the new platform so that you'll have that. So anyway, with that, anybody got any final closing words?
I have my little story of what happened to me today on my flight, real quickly.
Yeah, sure.
I was on my aircraft. We only have one lavatory. It's in the back of the plane. And today on my flight, I was in the galley. I was working forward, so I was doing something, and and it's kind of out of the range of sight for everyone, all the passengers. And out of the corner of my eye, I saw a passenger coming very quickly toward the front of the aircraft. Now on my plane, the only thing in the front of the aircraft is me, the galley, and the flight deck door. And he startled me, and I turned very quickly and put my arms up and said, "Please, sir, turn around and sit down." The upshot is that we startled each other, and I said, "Sir, the lav is in the back." I said, "But you have to leave the galley. You can't come up here." And to tie this in with what you were talking about before about the importance of debriefing, and he apologized a little bit then, and I tried to keep him away from the flight deck door, which he thought was another lavatory. And he sat down, and a little bit later I went up to him and I said, "Sir," I said, I apologize. I am so sorry for having startled you. But as you can imagine, in the last few weeks, there have been numerous incidents on aircraft with passengers coming forward. And the only thing that I could see was someone basically almost storming the flight deck door, which he didn't really, he was just looking for the lavatory. And he apologized because he said, "I understand what my actions did to elevate your sensitivity." And so we debriefed one another. And so by the time we were all done, he understood what his actions, the consequences of his actions, and I had a better sense of what he was trying to do. So as the guys have always said, the debriefing afterward is very often the most important thing you can do. So.
And it was a SkyWest airplane where the guy actually ran up there and jumped out, right?
Yes,
Opened the door.
on the United.
It was on the ground.
United
unfortunately.
Express in
Yeah. So anyway, so we're all creatures of what's current in the news and all that, and so temperaments are heightened right now. So that's just forewarned is forearmed. So anyway, all right. Thanks, Diane. Thanks, Dieter. Thanks, Eric, and thanks to you all for watching us again this week. And we'll see you again next week for Fearless Flight Live. So come on back and keep coming back.